All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Thursday, June 8th Kubernetes SIG Network meeting. As usual, we are governed by the Kubernetes Code of Conduct, which basically boils down to don't be a jerk. So please don't be a jerk. Not that we have a problem with that here. I'm going to start with triage. We have a fairly light agenda today, which is great. If people want to add things to the agenda still, it's open. The doc was shared with the calendar invite. Let me do some screen sharing of a window. I'm going to give you the infinity mirror. You guys got my window?
Yep.
All right. I've opened them in reverse time order. Let's take a look. Kube proxy pods, continuously crash loop, back off. Anybody looked at this one?
Yeah, that's the.
Oh yeah. Okay.
They have.
Seems like it's probably not going to be us, and we'll close it. I'll keep an eye on it. Next, I opened these two. These are actually being worked on already. These are just adding warnings to API operations. We did some, Antoine and Joe and I have been looking at some of the issues around server-side apply and incorrect map keys. And turns out we're really bad at this across the project. And we have a whole bunch of places. And I didn't realize that server-side apply completely barfs if you have an invalid, something that is allowed through validation, but not allowed through the map keys. And server-side apply just doesn't, unlike client-side apply, which just corrupts your data, server-side apply just gives up. Even if you're not manipulating that field, it will give up. So we're looking at how to address it. And these go ahead.
Yeah, we have in kind one example of doing, to install ingress and doing a patch, and the patch has this problem. So it doesn't work because of the duplication of server-side apply. But I thought that we have the way in the client to indicate if you want to do server-side or client-side apply. Do you know if they remove that?
No, you do. I mean, on kubectl, there's -- server side argument. Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, but I think that it's not there. I don't know. There is another option to change a path to not hit this problem.
What do you mean?
Right, so you can have the strategic merge, the JSON patch and whatever.
Yeah,
some of them that are more easy to hit this problem with them, or
so the problem is that in some of these cases, the strategic merge patch, which is client side, will corrupt your data. It will find duplicate keys and it will just pick one and throw the rest away.
Oh, is this thing too? Okay.
And if you do it server side apply looks at it and says, oh, these are not unique keys, barf, and it just returns a generic 500.
Oh.
So we're looking at adding a better error code, possibly making it so that it only barfs if you're actually like manipulating those specific fields, adding better warnings when you actually do these things, and possibly converting some of the lists that aren't really maps into atomic lists instead of pretending that they're maps. It's a map.
If it's atomic list, you need to replace all of them.
That's right. You can't co-own it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. But things like environment variables is one of these where the map says you can only have one value for each name, but actually it is not a map, it's an ordered list because each name can reference names that came before it. And so you can't just reorder it.
Oh, and what happens with the pot template thing?
Which one? Which aspect?
So the thing, 2 weeks ago or something, you had this problem with the pot template that was generating something, defaulting something for pot.
Oh,
Okay.
yes. So that one's in. It is, so there's different defaulting path for pod spec and for everything else embedded pod spec. And if you put your defaulting in the wrong place, then you will make a big mess for deployments and jobs and stateful sets and everything else. And if you put your defaulting in the right place, then it will only affect when the pod actually is created.
Okay. But there is no possible problem related to
I don't think so.
with it.
There's a separate issue open there. Apparently that causes Kubelet to like do the wrong thing sometimes. So that's a separate issue.
Okay. So well,
We
good.
should just not support patch. We should just
Yeah. It's
it's a mess. All right, next issue. Support a list of app protocols opened last week. I know this has been talked about. Rob, do you have any state?
Yeah, we've been talking. I mean, this is very relevant to Gateway API because honestly, the people that are reading and consuming app protocols are largely the same implementations that are implementing Gateway API. App protocols has always just been more of a hint than a requirement. And the problem is if you have implementation specific hints, there's not a way to describe that because you can pick one, but then you can't have interoperability across, implementations. A list, Lior started this in the last cycle by basically defining that, we could have domain prefixed app protocols to allow you to say, okay, there's this protocol that is my own unique interpretation of this, and this is what it means. But that is only really useful if you also have something like a list, so you can have some interop across multiple implementations on top of the same service. I don't love it, but I also don't have a good alternative. So I chatted with Lior a bit yesterday about this, and it seems like this still feels inevitable, but it maybe we'll just let it soak and get some more ideas before trying to push this forward in this specific cycle. But yeah.
I'm going to assign you this issue, and I'm going to triage accept it. I
Did I?
Nope, can't hear
Is it just
me
or okay?
Sorry. Because we have app protocol now, we have to do the whole pluralization dance, which is not fun.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I would love to avoid this. We have discussed, potentially maybe this just becomes something like we describe in Gateway API. That's even worse though, because then you have to define the intersection between, like, if somebody sets app protocol and then they set this other thing that's similar on Gateway API, then how do you interrupt between those? I don't know. Discussion ideas are very welcome on this one. Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else wants a word? All right. Endpoints loss object not removed when service selector is made to be empty. Have we talked about this one before?
Yes.
It has a lot of language. You think you have more context than anybody.
Yeah, so the issue is that if you create a service with a selector and then remove the selector, you are left with an orphaned endpoints and endpoint slice, which is intentional. But if you then modify the endpoints object, you get a second endpoint slice for the same service, because now you have one endpoint slice that was orphaned by the endpoint slice controller and one that was created by the endpoint slice mirroring controller. And this seems like an edge case that we just didn't think about and probably didn't intend. We just need to figure out the exact fix for it, I think.
And we might be able to make Perry do the patch.
Okay.
Wait,
So-
I missed that. What is the actual fix here? Like, I definitely understand the first bit that this is intentional.
I think that's what we're
Um,
here to discuss. We don't
Yeah.
know what the
My
the behavior should
suggestion
be.
was that when we orphan the endpoint and the endpoint slice, that we make the endpoint slice be owned by the mirroring controller. So that then if you modify the endpoints object, it just, you know, it modifies the existing endpoint slice rather than creating a new one.
Oh, that's really funny. So in that one instance, the original endpoint, the main endpoint slice controller would be pretending to be, I guess what you could do would be to just let the primary endpoint slice controller just clean up endpoint slices it owns and then trust the newly created endpoint slice mirroring. Well, no. Okay. Yeah. So
Implementation wise, it might be easier to have the endpoint slice get deleted when you remove the selector and then have the endpoint slice mirroring controller immediately create the thing at that point. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean that seems right. It's a mess though. I mean, ideally what you want here is there not to be much of a gap, but this is also, I don't think this is an area we're trying to optimize for long-term, you know, like when we built this into endpoint slice, it felt like, well, we'll just mirror what endpoints is doing. And it's a little funny, but let's not try and, you know, question it. As long as there's a fairly minimal delay between endpoint slice getting deleted and endpoint slice mirroring controller creating a new one, I feel like that's fine to me.
Another possibility would be that the endpoint slice mirroring controller could not create mirrors or could not create a endpoint slice if there already seems to be an endpoint slice mirroring, although I guess maybe it wouldn't be able to tell.
Yeah, you can't.
Because of the labels. No, it could see that there was already an endpoint slice with the label saying that it was part of that service.
Well, so right now, the way the controllers work is they are informers that only watch the endpoint slices they own. So like they only know of their own little world. They don't know of, and changing that could actually be more complicated. At least that's how I remember the controller working. We should verify, but.
Okay, so I've tagged both of you two on this. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Yep.
Should I untriage it or should I leave it and let you figure it out?
I mean, it sounds like a real bug. I was only aware of the first bit that, yeah, I just had completely missed. Oh, mirroring is going to create a duplicate and that's going to be annoying. So I think it's real and should be accepted.
You got it. Pod garbage. This is the server-side apply one. Among others, we're looking at this. Yeah, unfortunately, the only answer right now is not to use server-side apply not to use server-side apply with pod updates.
But this shouldn't be in SIG Network. This Aldo and
it's SIG
Michael
Network because the fields in question are pod ports, are the one that tends to have duplicate ports, or it was triggering the issues.
Yeah, but the problem is the code that Aldo and scheduling added to the controller. So they need to fix the controller.
I mean, it's fundamentally it's an SSA problem. So we'll tag them too. Okay.
No, but I mean, we need to backport the thing. It's broken. This controller is broken.
We need to figure out what the right fix is, right? Right now, they're just
okay. Let me ask different. Let me ask different. There is this problem that they added this logic, and because when this logic fails because of this problem, the pod garbage collector starts to fail. So the root cause is the server-side apply thing. But what I'm asking is, are we going to leave this controller in this state until we come up with a different solution, or do we want to fix quickly this controller and tackle the server-side apply problem. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. But I'm on these threads, so I will
Okay,
keep digging.
I have one link to the controller and to the code.
Pushing ahead, we got a flaky IPVS test. Somebody has assigned themselves to it. That was 2 weeks ago. Easy. Topology caches has violations can attempt concurrent map access. Ooh.
This is legend
This-
and has a fix.
There's already a fixed PR. I'm overdue to, I think I did one very brief review, but I need to do a proper review. But I think this is on me. And yeah, definitely accepted.
Awesome. After upgrade, Kubernetes version 120 to 1 not coming up in the controller manager. Wow, this is going to be a fun one to read. Is there anything in here that indicates?
Yeah, it crashes because it says that the cider is occupied. Go down to the, yeah, there. One up. Kilo, that one.
Failed to mark cider at index 0 as occupied for node. Cider.
I think that we already have one of these, yeah, that Jay reported some time ago. You can see him.
You wanna look at it?
Yes, yes.
Antonio to the rescue. Whoops.
Ah, you format.
There's my contribution. Network policies only take effect when pods are assigned. We looked at this one before. It was assigned to somebody, but
This sounds like a plugin problem.
yes, that's what we said before. I'll ping Casey. Is Casey here? Is it Calico? Sorry, do we know it's Calico?
Yes, there was a comment.
Yep.
Yeah, Calico. And type while you all are watching. How are we for time? Oh, let's wrap up. Let's make this the last one then. This is a month ago. Connection reset due to invalid contract. Do we know this one? I remember this. I think this.
This is about adding the invalid rule, right?
Yes, we need. I don't know what to do.
Right. That concept is right. I mean, if we can say this is invalid just for this specific case, that's the best thing. But I don't
Okay.
think we can. I don't know if that. Are we able to do it? You investigated that.
Let's take this one offline and do the rest of the agenda, and then if we have time, we can come back to it because we do have at least a couple of other things. Antonio, I put my name in ahead of you, but I don't know how long your topic is. You just wrote a lot. Do you want to go first?
Yes, it's quick.
Okay.
It's mine is first. So I've been attending the CNI meetings because one of the recurrent problems, mainly with CNI plugins that are installed as daemon set, is that they don't handle well the node lifecycle, and you don't do a lot of trickery with paints or or everything is super complex to get this right. So one of the way that the network really work for Kubernetes is just as the container runtime. The container runtime implementation is very basic. You just check that there is a CNI config file and that is ready. And one possible solution is to implement a verb in the CNI spec. So the container runtimes can have a better information about the CNI status and use this to provide the node readiness, node network readiness to the queue. I don't know. Dan Williams and Casey and others in the meeting. I don't know if you want to say something.
So I agree that the CNI status verb would help make this problem better for us. But overall, my feeling, and this discussed in the CNI issue that you linked to, is that we need to stop pretending that, or we need to stop trying to use CNI as the primary interface to Kubernetes network plugins, because they're much bigger than CNI, and so we should try and, I mean, this is a bigger project, but we should try and find some way to actually make a network plugin specification so that Kubelet can just use some proper API to see if the network plugin is there and ready.
I have thought down this path myself for a while, and like you said, it's a big project and I haven't had the activation energy. But I think I agree. People, I'm getting tired of correcting people when they talk about network policy as part of their CNI, and I just, you know what, the vernacular wins sometimes. It's the Kleenex of network plugins. But I agree that these things are not uncoordinated components. They need to be together, and there probably should be one holistic API. It should probably include host ports for pods. It should include IPAM. It should include probably node IPAM and pod IPAM, maybe. Definitely services, network policy, and as network policy APIs evolve, probably should cover all those too. So you're right, it becomes a real proper network driver. Anybody wants to work on this?
I was about to say, we do have some new contributors showing up looking for stuff to work on. It's kind of a big.
I'm not sure this is a
project.
good first issue.
Yeah, no, it's certainly not first issue. Yeah.
Okay, well, look, I'm broadly supportive of the initiative. I'd love to see if somebody wants to start putting together thoughts on what would all be included in such an API, like starting very vague and refining it. I'd love to discuss and look at that. I'm not going to have time to drive it myself in the near-term future, but I do think it's important. Okay, Antonio, is that all of your topic?
Yes, I mean, I think that this at least give us a better state, not the ideal, but right now it's completely broke.
Yeah, and like I was saying at the beginning, I mean, the CNI people do want to push the status verb forward, and if we had it, it would make things somewhat better. So, I wouldn't say we should avoid this so that we can get the perfect solution maybe someday much later.
Yes, I'm definitely in favor of incremental in-place improvements whenever possible. Okay. The last thing I had on the agenda, unless anybody has added something to it, nope, is to take a quick look at KEPs. The KEP PRR freezes nominally today, and we are short on PRR reviewers more than ever. So anybody who's looking for a way to contribute, shadowing PRR is a great way to have some outsized impact. But I wanted to run through the KEPs that we've got open and make sure that I'm doing the right thing with them. So let me share screen one more time. Share this one. Everybody see this? Yes?
Yep.
All right. The columns sort of reflect the code base of the features, not the code base of the KEPs. So a few of them have already moved towards GA, but looking at anything that's tagged 128, I think we're still going well, we did GA already. We've merged that for PTE. IP tables restore minimization I think it must have been checked in if I already moved it across columns. And DNS expansion, that's fine. I talked with Rob and Antonio this morning. We're going to punt topology aware one more time. Node port static ranges, I think wants to go GA. We're just waiting for a PR to do that. IP tables ownership. Dan, was there a PR for this yet or not yet?
That's
No,
all
but-
done for, yeah, it's beta for 128.
Oh, it's beta for 120. We need I'm working on a better dashboard. It's not ready yet. Okay, so it's going to beta in 28. Got it.
Right, and Node port is going to beta too.
Oh, okay, great. Yes, hopefully my new dashboard will be much clearer and will say like what the next step is and when. That's what I'm trying to figure out how to represent. The service controller stuff, I think also wants to go GA. We just need a PR.
Okay,
Sorry, go ahead.
I'll get on the PR. Sorry, I've kind of lost track of these.
It's fine. We've got a month plus to get PRs in, but it is planning to go GA, right?
Yeah. There weren't any issues reported, so I think. Well,
That was my read too. So no rush. We've got over a month to do it. We just need the PR.
okay.
Multiple service siders is paused while we figure out the overlapping issues. Antonio's got some docs there that we need to revisit. So not going to make the cut for this week. Admin network policy is async. Dual stack node IP stuff. Dan, what was going on with it?
So the CAP is actually approved to go to beta already, but it turns out that it didn't actually work in 1.27, and I just pasted a PR that you have to merge. So it'll be staying alpha in 128.
Staying alpha. All right, I will update that. Give me 1 second. Take it off lead opted in and change the milestone to 29. And where did you paste the
Zoom chat?
Great. Give me 1 second while I load it so that I don't lose it. Where's chat? Chat is here. Load that one. Okay. Pop back. Okay, those are all the alphas. Now things that might be going into alpha. I didn't have time. I don't think they've done anything there. Field status host IPs, I think is going to make alpha. We're still reviewing the PR, but it's at PR stage, so okay. And this one I tagged, but I don't even remember what it was. The details now.
Or the drain terminating nodes thing. If you remember that.
Yes, the health check.
Yeah, exactly. So the PR is good to go. I just updated it today, and Antonio's been reviewing it. Thank you so much.
Great.
So it should be pretty good to go, right, for alpha.
Okay, great. As long as it doesn't need PRR or anything, then we're good for this week's deadline. These ones are all in some form of stasis, I think. I don't know anything about the host network support for Windows. Does anybody here know what's going on with this?
No.
All right, I'll have to follow up on that. Endpoint slice into staging stuff, is that moving at all?
I know we want to see that move. I don't know if there's anyone with enough time to get it in this cycle.
Okay. Well, I mean, honestly, if it's not like substantially done with respect to, well, this won't have any PRR impact, will it?
No, not really. It's a pretty small one, so we'll see.
Well, so I'll ping it, but it's got on the order of what, 6 days to get through the CAP approval. So that's it. Dan, I don't presume NF tables is moving forward.
I'm making progress on the code, but it's not moving forward. Actually, yeah, the CAP hasn't even merged yet. I guess people, when we're past deadlines, people should read through it again and see what needs to happen before we can merge the initial CAP.
Okay.
That
Go ahead.
one question. Then all these refactors that you are sending are to put the code in better shape for this, right?
Sorry, what did you
All,
say?
all these refactors that you are sending to the key proxy code are to get better shape for adding a new proxy, right?
I mean, none of it has to happen. It's all just to make it nicer to add new.
No, I'm really look. It's you can add also unit tests with your refactor, so those are really useful. But I was wondering if it was a reason, a special reason for them, or you just saw the code and
Well, okay, so actually the incremental changes stuff in the service change tracker and endpoint change tracker is sort of broken right now, and so we do need to fix that before NF tables can be fully working. But and the refactoring is sort of leading towards that. But no, in general, the refactoring is just to make everything nicer. It's not actually like a hard requirement for NF table support.
Okay. This is the Kaping issue, which we need to resolve completely at some point relatively soon, but it's not moving forward, I think. Not in this cycle. None of these are, there was some discussion of command line and config file. Does anybody have any context on that?
well, Dan, you send there is an issue with the moving the config to beta 1 and all this discussion about putting the platforms. I think
That's
that
right.
this can be.
Yeah, I
can
didn't
be
realize
tied
we
to
had
this.
a KEP about that.
Yeah, no, I mean neither. So that's why I'm saying it. We discussed it in 2 different places about this, and I saw the.
Do you want me to reopen it? It's currently closed because of rotten.
What's
Or do you want me
the issue number? 2157.
2157.
I'll look at it.
Okay. And there's this idea of probing from within the podsnet namespace. Antonio, I think you were championing that, were you?
But and I talked with Patel, and they like the idea because also it's more secure and everything. But it's as everything. If I wish I have more days and time.
Okay. So not moving anywhere right now. That's fine. We are all very constrained. The good news is we are like getting a lot of KEPs into conclusion, which is awesome. It will make room on our agenda for the big ones like network policy, like rebooting the network plugin system. So that's good. Frankly, my quarter this quarter has been ridiculous, and I haven't had enough time to review everything that I wanted to review. So much less my own KEPs. Any other questions on KEPs? Did I miss any? Anybody know of a KEP that's not on this board yet?
So
Okay.
what happens with the admin network policy? It's an independent group, right?
It's not version locked to the release.
Okay, that's why we have it in the alpha.
That's a good question. Where is it? Admin network policy. Just because I haven't been tracking it very carefully. So
Okay. I thought that.
I mean, their own. Well, I don't know how we're tracking gateway stuff in terms of KEPs, but like
we're not. There's no gateway on here.
Okay. Yeah, there's been talk about adding a network policy equivalent of GEPs, except that nobody can agree on what acronym to use, so that's holding it up. But
NPEPs, of course. Silent N. Okay. I mean, should we have one for gateway on here tracking it, or several of them for gateway, Rob?
We have so many things in flight, it would get out of track pretty quickly. We did have a KEP for gateway API, and that KEP tracked basically everything until we graduated from like the experimental API group to the standard K8s API group. And so the KEP was just, this API should graduate to standard K8s API group. And then at that point, everything just was GEPs.
Okay.
I'm
Well,
open
right-
to, yeah.
Right now, this dashboard, this is the old GitHub project format, and it's not very extensible. The new project format is much more extensible. So I
Yep.
mentioned I'm working on a new dashboard for myself that I'm going to bring back into this, and hopefully convert this into that, and then it'll be easier to manage. And then we can consider, by then it'll probably be too late for Gateway, but we can consider adding more KEPs for more fine grained stuff, because I think life cycle will be easier to manage.
Yeah, just for anyone curious, we have our own GEP project board in Gateway. So it's similar to this, but it's using the new style. And yeah, we've got a lot of things too. So yeah, completely agree that the new project style is very helpful for this kind of thing.
It's fractal all the way down. Every KEP has subcaps and sub
Yeah.
subcaps.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to stop sharing if we're done with this. And I'll follow up on a couple. I think that's it for our agenda, yes? Anybody else want to bring up topics? Okay. I guess you can all have 15 minutes of your life back. Thank you all for coming today. If you have issues and you want to discuss, you can find us all on Slack or one of a multitude of other places. If you have PRs that need to merge around KEPs in the next 7 days, please ping me directly. Don't be shy, and I'm happy to look and try to approve if we can get those done. Thanks, everyone. I'm going to stop the recording now.